In the 757, we have phenomenal foundations and people doing great things, business, sports, and education. Today, we continue our Commonwealth Conversation series highlighting 757 foundations. Today, we have Carl Francis of the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation. It's Stay the One. I'm your host, Dr. Claville. We'll be back in just a moment. It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Thank you so much for joining us, as you always do every Sunday here as we broadcast live from the campus of the Norfolk State University from WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. Look, I don't know about you, but the weather in Hampton Roads, where we are, has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, the students are back, campus is jumping, and we're having a great time. Like, hats off to everybody that's doing your thing and making sure that you're staying safe, staying healthy, because again, the virus is still out there. We just want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You know, health and wellness, and not just health and wellness, but also mental health. Make sure you take care of you. As always, we've got our producer here, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandalous, which can be heard on our line here at WNSB every day, Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. and also on Saturday. And if you come to the home games here on campus, you can hear him DJing as well on the Wheels of Steel. And for those of you guys that know that terminology back in the 80s and 90s, the Wheels of Steel, he's still cutting it up. Well, look, one thing that we love to do here on Stay the Water is bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you, the community, to discuss issues that are important to you. And for the last couple of months, and we're going into October, which is our election season, but before we do so, we're still highlighting our great foundations in the 757. You know, we've had foundations from individuals who are in business and sports and politics and education. And today we have with us a foundation that's been around for over a quarter of a century. And that's the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation. And we have with us one of the co-founders, Mr. Carl Francis. Carl, thank you so much for joining us here on State of the Water.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Claville. I really appreciate you having me on. This is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when we talked and we met, I said, listen, I've got to get you on the show because what you guys have been doing in the community for over a quarter of a century is absolutely phenomenal. Now, we've been highlighting a lot of foundations. A lot of them are fairly new, you know, under a decade. But when you do something for a quarter of a century, you just don't do it because you want to do it, but you do it because you love it and there's a passion with it.
Right.
So tell us, you know, what led you really to be a part and start the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation? Now, I know it's been over a quarter of a century, so you may have to think back a little bit. But
trust me, I was about to say that I got to shake some cobwebs out, but I'll help you out a little bit.
Absolutely.
No, but originally from Hampton, Virginia, attended Virginia Union University, and so I'm a 757 native, along with my co-founder Vernon Lee. He attended Hampton High School. I attended Bethel growing up. Okay. So we've always known each other, and so when I started working for the NFL Players Association, I've always been a sports fan. I've always been interested in working in sports and public relations. And so when I got my job, I said to myself, I want to give back to my hometown, my Hampton Roads area, because it's really a football-bred community. And also we have a lot of great people there. And so I said, let me just think about how to way to start a free football camp. And so I called Vernon and a couple of more guys, and we got together and put on the first camp. I remember sitting in Coliseum Hall at the time and just trying to solicit people to even join up, and we were giving away free slots. But as the camp unfolded years and years, and we started getting a lot of NFL players from the area coming back, Terry Kirby, Chris Slade, Mel Gray, Ron Springs, Dwight Holly, so many guys. And then, you have your Michael Viggs, you have your Ronald Carey, and then you got your Tyrods. Like, so many players started coming back that we started evolving the camp to being more than just the football camp. We started creating extensions. So, as you mentioned, for 25, 26 years, quarter of a century, you say to yourself, you look up one day and you say, how did I get to 25 years? But, as you're changing lives, motivating, empowering young people, you really don't count the days or count the years. You count the people that you touch. And the more people that you touch, the more years go by, and then you end up touching their children, which is so crazy today. And so it's been a true passion. Hasn't been work. Hasn't been very hard. It hasn't been a distraction. It's all been the love of the community and the commitment by the community to give back. So it's been awesome for me.
You mentioned, giving back and touching, children, and then the children of the children that you touch, and on your website, you talk about how many kids you've touched. And this is absolutely amazing to me. It says, in this time, you've touched over 10,000 youth.
Yeah.
10,000. When you say that, when I say that number, what comes to mind?
It just comes impact. We all know where our community is right now with our youth. And it's not getting any easier keeping them focused on opportunities to create successful human beings. And when we touch 10,000 children, our hope is that out of those 10,000, we have created ministers, we've created doctors, we've created teachers, we've created principals, we've created a number of people that can go out and impact 10,000 more kids. So for me, the impact is key because it's the thing they remember about attending an event that we held that says, I want to get better because of what this event represents. And that's what I think about when I think about 10,000. And I'm not checking the temperatures of every young man or woman who leaves our event,
right.
But I do know when they leave, I look into the eyes of every young man and young woman that we've given scholarship monies to. We've had conversations with, and knowing that they've taken something to store away in their conscience to say, he's saying I can become a better human.
Wow.
He's saying I can be productive. He said I can give back, and I can do this without the expectation of other folks. I can do this because I'm special at what I do. And so that's when I think about 10,000 young people, those are the thoughts that come to my mind.
We're talking with Carl Francis, co-founder of the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation, also Director of Communications for the NFL Players Association since 1984. And yes, a proud HBCU graduate, Virginia Union. It's okay. We're here with the Spartan Nation, but look, we all fam, right? We all family.
We that's right. We all family at the end of the day. HBCU, that's right. I had to get away at least for an hour away from the house. So I grew up in Hampton Institute at the time, University now, Norfolk State. I said, I just need to feel as though I'm away a little bit, so I go an hour away and enjoy my college experience.
There you go. Look, Virginia is one of our great HBCUs, not just in the Commonwealth, but also in the country. A lot of great legends have come from there. And you talk about ministers, they produce their share of great
Absolutely.
preachers. Absolutely. So being a part of the NFL, Players Association, and I think, you also lettered in Virginia Union as well.
Yes.
There. A lot of kids look at sports as being their top goal. In other words, I want to make it to the league and that's it. You ask the average kid, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Say, I just want to make it, to the NFL or to the NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever the case may be. But that time that you have within that association is a very small time period, in your life. And when I look at your foundation, you talk about the mission. The mission is to cultivate, develop, and manage programs to enhance the lives of youth, promoting first academic excellence, social responsibility, and community service. When you get a young kid that comes to your camp and they see all these stars that they see on television and they idolize and so forth, how do you break through to say, listen, they're here, but we want to develop you into something that's greater than the sport?
That is a phenomenal question, and I'm going to tell you why, because that's what the mold that we've been breaking since we started the camp is not to inform you that you're going to be an NFL player because there's an NFL player standing in front of you, but to let you know that if you're dreaming of becoming an NFL player, then they're going to share their journey with you of how they got there. But they're also going to share with you the struggles of getting there, right? To give you a balance of there are other options if you don't meet those expectations or struggles. One of the greatest things, Coach Mike Tomlin, who's also a partner with us, who's a Newport News native, attended Denby High School, he spoke to the kids one year, and he said, one of the reasons that I did not become an NFL player, and that was my dream when I was younger, because guess what? After I went to college at William & Mary and graduated, got my degree, my master's, he said, I found out quickly that I wasn't good enough to be an NFL player. And that's what set up opportunities for me to do other things, such as getting into coaching. So to hear him admit, it's okay, I wasn't good enough, but there are other opportunities that exist within sports that you can participate or get involved in that'll still fulfill your dreams. So I like that question because, we've started to extend this camp to other areas within HRYF in terms of other programming, other initiatives that don't necessarily put all the focus in the camp, but use the camp as like a carrot, right, to engage kids and then break them off into other areas like a leadership symposium that we've had. We had a career fair last year for boys and for girls with women in sports and men in sports, all these different areas to break up the idea that we are a strictly camp-focused foundation, which we will be because the camp does serve as a life skills component, but in other areas that we can impact young people.
Using sports as a metaphor for life. Sports is probably the greatest team and individual aspect or activity that you can do to really show what you're made of, because you're competing. Right. You're not just competing against the individual or the team in front of you, but you're competing against yourself. When you talk about the Leadership Symposium, what are some of the aspects that you have charged your guests and speakers to challenge the youth that are in front of them?
Well, a couple of areas that we really focus on is something you mentioned earlier is mental wellness.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mental wellness and having a strong mind, knowing how to create positive thoughts. That's one. Two is financial wellness, teaching young people how to manage money, even if it's $1. How do you manage $1 over 2 days?
Come on now.
It can be done, right? It can be done. Law enforcement interaction, right? How do we deal with law enforcement today? We know our young people are a little, there's been this strong conversation surrounding law enforcement and young people and society and community, but bringing in law enforcement to let them know the understanding of the purpose that they're out there to protect the community, have these conversations. Social media is another one. How to manage social media, how social media impacts your mental wellness, and how you can overcome, how you should manage social media. So those are the areas that we really focus on to get the most out of our young people, to let them know that it's okay to be nervous, it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to be confused. But we're here to help you unravel all of your thoughts and help you get some balance and some direction on how you should manage all these different areas.
Absolutely.
Because our children are faced with all of these things we just said. It's on threefold and tenfold now in society. How do we help you unravel that to keep you on a focused track to achieve your goals?
You know, it's Sunday, so I'm a quote one of the Proverbs. It talks about to keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues. Come out of the issues of life. And in this era, especially coming out of the pandemic, you know, mental health has been talked about quite a bit, you know, and mental stability. And everything starts in the mind, every single thing. And the fact that you're focusing on mental health, you know, with youth, what do you think has been the impact of our sports icons and those that are in, especially NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and others? What do you think has been the impact of them being very honest about their struggles?
I think it's been phenomenal because it shows vulnerability. And I think when you look at your hero and your hero says, hey, guys, I have bad days. Hey, guys, I have bad thoughts. I have family members that have passed, and I've been depressed. I've had family issues that have caused me to think about my life. I've been released from a team and told that I'm not good enough to play sports anymore, and I was down on myself. So that's the equation to a young man playing high school football and being released from the team, you know, and not feeling as though I'm not worthy of anything. And so that vulnerability that our professional athletes show helps our young people deal and cope with life challenges and ups, because when you and I were growing up, you know, when we saw people walk around real quiet, to themselves, reserved, or maybe thinking differently, you know, we connected them to something as being special and different. When we didn't understand that, you know, mental wellness covers a number of situations in a person's life. You know, such as the death, the separation of a parent, divorced parents, living conditions, the environment you live in, sometimes even peer pressure, or being able to not live up to others' expectations. All of those things fall in the bucket of mental wellness. And I think once our society continues to learn what mental wellness is and we educate our young people, then they can feel more comfortable and understand that, oh, that's why I feel this way. Okay, it's normal. Okay, I need to go get help. And this is how I get help, or these are some tools that I can use to help me navigate my feelings. And I think that's what our professional athletes do when they admit and show vulnerability towards mental wellness.
You know, I also see you talked about financial health, financial wellness, you know, and one of your co-founder, you know, Vernon, he's a financial advisor himself. And when you look at professional athletes, and I've looked at the studies myself and that the various leagues have done, and it's the only organizations or only companies, and they are companies, conglomerates, that where over 80% of their employees actually are in dire financial straits less than 2 years after they leave. To me, that is absolutely astonishing.
Right.
I mean, how is it that you have over 80%, and really it was over 90 in some aspect when you expanded out for a few more years, but how do you have over 90% of your employees that are come out of, you know, where they work, and they're in financial straits where they now have to deal with the pressures of life and mental health? You know, what is it that you do in your program that try to tell kids and you, hey, financial well-being starts now?
Well, first, we all believe that if you're not on Instagram driving a big car and a big house, that equates with being rich, which is false. And so we got to get rid of the illusions of being financially healthy, right? And so we break down those myths with those young people and have those conversations that sometimes they can't have at their kitchen tables, which we know in some households, there are financial education conversations that are being held, right? We have generations of families that have been impacted by not being financially stable mentally, not necessarily just financially, but just being able to understand what a stock market is. What's the difference between a savings account and a checking account? I mean, we're talking about simple, basic principles of finance, how to balance a checkbook, and just talk about wealth. How do you compound wealth? What's the interest rate? And I think those are the areas that we try to tackle at the beginning, because the numbers that you just mentioned with the professional football players, that percentage comes from the lack of financial education that they didn't receive when they were young. See, the myth in the industry is, oh my goodness, these guys are professional athletes. How can they lose so much money? But what people don't understand, people are built from the core. They're not built from the top of the tree. They're built from the core and the root of the tree. And if you're not watering the root, the tree will grow up unhealthy, even though it'll grow, but it'll grow up unhealthy, and then the leaves will eventually break off. And that's what's happening to a lot of our professional athletes, a lot of our professional people in general, where they're not getting the core of understanding the purpose of financial education early enough in their careers, so that when they get to a certain level of financial wellness and achievement, at least they have a fundamental understanding of, if I don't know what to do with my money, then guess what? I'll just put it in the bank and let it settle until I educate myself. Not give someone power of attorney, right? Not say, I don't feel like counting my money, so I'll let someone else count it.
Right.
Or I'll give out 6 or 7 debit cards to my family members when they need something, because they think that the zeros will never decrease. And so it's important for us to, once again, pour back into our youth in the Hampton Roads area to educate them on how important it is just to save your money, what a stock market is, what's a stock option,
what's a savings account,
all these different elements. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What we do, and I tell everyone, I was just I'm a board member with the YMCA here, and been active with the YMCA for almost a decade, and I was a keynote speaker for our regional leadership conference in Richmond this past weekend. And one thing I told our emerging leaders, over 300 there, I told them, I said, listen, none of us get to where we are by ourselves. You have to be able to be mentored. You have to be able to be a mentee, and you have to be able to work with people that want to work with you. And for what you've done for over a quarter of a century, you guys have built this great network of partnerships, strategic partnerships, and working with individuals who are volunteers that give of their time. Tell us a little bit about those strategic partnerships in our last few moments.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to talk about our partnerships, because it's been really, really big for us. We just launched a program with the Hampton Police Department earlier this year, where we've been holding the Simple Conversations. And the Simple Conversations are based around having our young people, some of our student athletes from the Hampton Roads area, to sit down with the Hampton Police Department to discuss leadership, to discuss professional development, how to conduct yourself, and what happens when certain interactions take place on the streets. Because many of our youth have seen family members, have seen friends get in some minor altercation with law enforcement, but to really get an understanding what their job is versus what they're trying to achieve in our communities. And so that's a program that we held over 4 months. We met with the student athletes in the Hampton Roads area over the course of 4 months, once a week. And that went outstanding.
Wow.
That was outstanding. Then we just created an opportunity, a relationship with Hampton University's mental wellness department, where we partner with 3 or 4 high schools in the Hampton Roads area, where we're going to have some of their graduate students go in and speak and educate them on some forms of mental wellness and talk to them about what's their purpose and try to get them engaged into their mindset and their transitions of being high school athletes and dealing with mental wellness. So we're definitely going to do that. And then we are partnering with a financial partnership right now that we're finalizing just to set up some sort of programs throughout the year where we can talk about business and sports.
Yes.
We may even set up some pitch days for young people to start being creative and thinking about business opportunities in sports. And then we're going to have a sports career summit partnering with Hampton University, where we're going to have kids come in over 3 or 4 days and meet with the Stephen A. Smiths, meet with some of the general managers, the different folks that are in high-level positions, to talk to them about opportunities beyond sports and in the media, in the front office and other areas. So the partnerships that are aligning right now are just phenomenal. We look forward to even a bigger and better 2023 for HRYF.
Well, listen, I live on the peninsula, but I work here on the Southampton Road, so I'm a little split here because I hear a lot with Hampton and Newport News, but I'm going to go ahead and give a pitch, to come on down across the bridge, come through the tunnel, come through the tunnel, come over here to the Spartan Nation, to the Legion, across the water, because listen, there are a lot of partnerships, and we'll love to definitely continue to expand what you're doing and partner here. So I'm giving a pitch now. I'm giving it now.
Hey, listen, I am totally open because Hampton Roads area we are one community. We are 1757, and so I will be I'll be excited and open to hearing about any opportunities we can have with the good old Spartans.
There you go. Well, we'll talk after this. But last, before we leave, we talked about not just the strategic partnerships, but also the volunteers. You got your board directors. You got this big youth camp that you do every year. Tell us how that comes together, who works with that, because that is a huge undertaking.
Oh, the camp itself?
Yes,
well, of course, our board, which is Tim Moore, chairman of Hampton University sports management program, John Cunningham, entrepreneur from the South Side, Jalen Brown, who's also the president of JB Agency, and Vernon Lee, and Keith Powell, who's a coach in the Northern Virginia area. But we all come together and we think of different ways to impact kids and throughout the camp. And then we bring in a coaching committee, where our coaching committee meets and come up with ideas and ways to make the camp more efficient. And we have such a great partnership with Coach Prunty and the staff and AD, Eugene Marshall, and Hampton University, that they make it seamless, the whole transition for the camp. And so we just, at this point, is running just like a machine, because we've done it so long, and all the community, everybody, the coaches, everybody, they remind us that we have to send out the applications. So it's been really, really fun engaging with the community, connecting, particularly with our coaches in the Hampton Roads area. Being around for so long just gives everyone so much pride, and we just love the support of our businesses. Like, as you mentioned, our volunteers, who some of them are still, some volunteers we don't even speak with the whole year. And then and we're like, oh my goodness, we forgot they'll show up and say, no, I know the time and I know the date, so I'm here. So, it's like a family event, family fair. So we're just so grateful that everybody's involved.
We've been having a great conversation with Carl Francis, co-founder of the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation and Director of Communications for the NFL Players Association since 1984. Brother Francis, listen, you're talking to a father of 2 kids that you also touched that participate in that program, and they're off doing great things. And I want to thank you for the work that you do, and I look forward for the continued work and the impact you're making in the community. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Thank you for joining us and listening. And as you always do, tune in every Sunday at 10 a.m. where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Have a great week. Do great things. God bless. We'll see you next week.